Hi guys,
Hello.
we are here with Chris and Michele Rider. We've been working with them this summer here at Mackinac Mill Creek, and you got to hear their story. They've got an awesome story about going from corporate to moving to Alaska when nobody thinks about moving to Alaska. But I'm going to let them explain the whole process that they went through, and just it's cool. It's a neat story. So, how you're with corporate? Were both of you in corporate?
No, me. I worked for a large retailer.
Okay.
Probably won't take you too much to figure out who it was. But they were expanding like crazy and working our tails off. And I think 9 times in 7 years we transferred to different locations, opened up new stores, and yeah, it got old pretty fast.
I can see that.
So your 7 times that you transferred, was it around Michigan or?
We started out in Florida, we were
Oh.
in Michigan, then down to Ohio, back up to Michigan.
So you've been kind of all over.
Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't just next town over. It was the states, huh?
Right. It was one of those deals where we loved it right up until the point that we didn't.
Right.
I can
There
see
was
that.
no middle ground there.
I can
It
see
was
that.
hard going to a new city all the time, not knowing anybody. Michelle would be at home,
Right. It is.
not knowing anybody.
I can see that. I can see that. So then you were a stay-at-home mom, or did
I
you do
worked.
corporate too?
No, I worked. I
Did you?
just did my own thing.
Okay. So you ever had your own business then? Okay. Yeah,
Well,
what's
I was
your-
working 80, 90 hours a week.
So you were never home.
We left stuff packed in boxes sometimes that we did never unpack because we knew we were going to be transferred to consumer.
Wow.
That's the way.
And one of the times that we got transferred, it was like a last minute thing, and we were just, the moving truck showed up like the day after we got notified, and we were just throwing stuff in garbage bags.
Oh wow.
So what actually happened was we moved our garbage and we left our clothes. The clothes got thrown out in the garbage. And we moved our garbage. Because it was just that fast paced.
right.
You're like, there's black garbage bags everywhere. This is the clothes, this is the garbage, and it got crossed
Not
over.
Crossed
and-
over.
One time, Michelle called me. I was on setting up a new store out of town, and she called me and said, "We got a expense moving check in the mail." I said, "Oh, let me call." That's how we found out we got transferred. We got our moving expense check.
Oh no.
Wow.
So they didn't tell you.
It was just things were happening so fast with the company.
Wires
Right.
would get crossed, things
Now, what
just
year?
got lost in the
What
That
year
would
was
have been
that?
the late 80s.
Okay.
So
Okay.
87, 88.
Okay.
early 90s.
And we did that for 7 years, and we decided.
You were
We
done.
started thinking about, this isn't really what we want for a life.
Right.
Michelle went to, was it a garage sale? And
Yep.
she bought a encyclopedia set, just an old.
From like the 50s, like
Oh, okay.
1955. The whole set, every volume.
Right.
No,
And
so I
probably
was like-
fairly inexpensive.
For $5, how can you go wrong?
Right.
To get all that misinformation after.
So I'm flipping through. I grabbed the first one, which is the A's, and I'm flipping through, and it says Alaska.
Yeah.
So,
And this is Miss Lucy.
oh, this
Yeah.
is Lucy, by the way. She's a senior citizen.
There you go.
Okay, Lucy, go lay down.
So did you have kids at the time when you
We
were
did.
doing that? It
No,
was just,
we were.
okay.
Yeah, we were actually pretty young. I was 26.
Oh, okay.
Michelle was 24 at the time.
Okay. So you're going through the encyclopedias, and what you?
I come to Alaska, and I said, "Man, wouldn't it be cool to live there?" And within a month, our house was up for sale. We put in our notice at work,
And
and we were on the way.
I would just add that and this was like in the early 90s, right?
Yeah.
We sent a letter to the Chamber of Commerce in Anchorage, Alaska, saying, hey, we want to head up there. This is when we're thinking about coming. And back then, it was just like, they really didn't want you. So So we got this packet of information in the mail that said, "Don't come.
Really?
We don't want you here."
I think a lot of people at that time were going up there without money, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put
you
a
have to
strain on the
have
system.
$2,100 at least to travel the Alcan, which you really do. You know, we didn't have any car issues, no blown tires. Of course, we did it in February.
they did.
But-
They stopped us at the border. We had to go in, and we had to show them that we had a credit card, and we had to show them we had enough cash to get through, because they must have had such a problem with people.
Wow,
Just
that's
showing up with no
crazy.
money,
I
and
mean, I don't know if we mentioned, but it was February when we drove
Yeah.
up there.
they're like, "Oh, they don't want us. Well, here we come. We're
We're
coming
going
anyway."
Correct
Michelle
me.
had a Ford Probe, and I had a pickup truck, and there was a couple times in the Yukon I had to push her up the mountain because her car wasn't going to make it.
Steamboat Mountain.
In February.
And so when you did that, did you sell everything out of the house then
We did.
too, or?
We did. We said whatever didn't fit in the back of our pickup, we
sold.
were going to sell. And
Well, the back of the pickup and the car, right?
But we had
But
two.
I had a Great Dane
We had 2 dogs at the time.
Oh,
and He was a
okay.
Great Dane.
in the back of
Pretty
my
well filled
car.
up the car.
Yeah.
There's not a lot, and the funniest thing about that whole thing was she had narcolepsy. When you got her in the car, she could not stay awake, and it's like blizzarding. I'm driving up a mountain, and there's one lane, and she decides to stretch, and her paws go on the back of my head. And, I mean, she's like a good 170 pounds, and she's pushing on the back of my head, and it's going towards the steering wheel, and I'm just trying to keep it on this one lane highway going up the mountain with sheer cliff on one side and the mountain on the other.
Oh,
and
gosh.
that was, yeah,
That-
that was
Interesting
fun.
drive.
Well, we
They're
had
so
thoughts.
cute.
We had thoughts that what the heck are we doing, but we knew that was what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, we've always been a little crazy and not afraid to jump in with all 4 feet.
Just kind of go out of the box.
Yeah.
I would say not. So then, when you got to Canada, you said something or other about that you build a cabin, that you started building a
Alaska.
cabin. Or
When we
Alaska,
got
I'm
up to
sorry.
Alaska, yep. We got up there. I did a ride night, and I hope we got there too late, so they gave away our hotel room that we had. So it was like 10 degrees out. We slept in cars,
In
Wow.
Taco Bell parking lot.
and we
Please.
just
Yeah, the state police were knocking on our windows to make sure that we were okay because we were in the parking lot of a Taco Bell. So we just said, "Hey, just got up here because we had Michigan license plates, and we didn't know it was Iditarod weekend, and our hotel room was given away."
Because you made it too late.
Yeah, we did call and say, "Yeah, we're gonna get there late," but there's no. We did end up driving like probably 12 miles out of town to another
a
establishment.
flea bag hotel that we ended up going back, getting our money back after we looked at the room. It was pretty nasty.
It did have a full-size stove and oven, you know, kitchen, stove and oven, but it wasn't hooked up, and the mattresses on the floor looked comfortable, but we just were like, yeah, no.
Oh, mattresses on the floor. Interesting.
Nice.
So
But it was Iditarod weekend, and there were mushers everywhere that needed a warm place to stay.
That's
and
true.
I can see that.
So we ended up, I got a job right away with a company that made Alaska videos. And I was in the sales department, so I got to fly all over Alaska with little
Wow.
passenger planes, and anywhere that a cruise ship went, I flew to. And I would see whales swimming and bears, and I'd be calling home every time we came close to a payphone. This
That's-
was before cell
Yeah,
phones.
the same for
Right.
cell phones.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool experience.
we got caught in the middle of a caribou herd. I had to sit for an hour.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, poor you. Because it was a migration, you know,
Right.
and there's
Yeah.
thousands of them, and they take up the road, they take up the fields, and they move when they're good and ready.
Right.
But it cemented our, this is why we're here.
Right.
You know, something
Oh,
really
yeah.
cool.
That's awesome.
What an amazing journey.
Yeah.
So then you started building the cabin when you first got up there? Is that
Yeah.
Would you have
About
a
a
wall
year
tent or
after we
something?
were up there, we found some property and we made a deal with the guy on a handshake and bought his property, and we had no clue. We've never built anything in our life, but we just got books and read up on.
Went to the library, checked out books.
Yeah.
and how many square foot was the cabin?
400 square feet,
400.
with a little loft and wood stove, and we ended up building onto it later on down the road.
Sure.
We got kids, but it was just awesome. We had bear around. I made the front door, so it was a pretty good heavy-duty rustic door that had bear scratches on it.
It took,
Oh,
four,
wow.
it took 4 men to lift that door up from where we built it and actually affix it to the cabin because it was so thick.
Wow.
And we did all of that with hand tools.
Hand tools.
Yeah, we
There
didn't
was
have
no
power.
electricity.
Oh,
We did
yeah.
get a generator shortly towards the end. But everything was, we did our own roof trusses, our own floor joists.
That's cool.
Michelle
Framed
got up on the
all
roof
in.
because she wasn't as worried about the height.
That would totally be me.
So the whole idea of going to Alaska was to
Do exactly
go
that.
fishing and
Do exactly
live
what
off
you
the
ended up
land
doing.
and do that. And we ended up opening a gift store, and pretty soon that turned into 8 gift stores.
Wow.
We decided it was time to get a house.
Right.
It was after we had the kids.
Yeah. And all of our kids are adopted. We have 3 kids.
Okay.
And
Right.
they're all older now. They all have their own families, or in our son's case, he's in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And while they hated the cabin during the time, you know, it's time to go out to the outhouse, it's 20 below, Dad has his bear gun, we're all going together, take turns, hated it, they all talk about it. That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
they
Well, sure, that's something they'll
love
never
the
forget.
most about.
Yeah, our son wants to build a cabin in Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay. You were telling a story about the flashlight in the outhouse. You gotta tell us the
You
story about
know, mag lights are expensive, and this isn't just any. It was the best you could get at the time, and that thing lasted forever. You know, because you have to shine through the pucker brush and see if you see any red eyes. It was very handy, and you know, we would let the kids take it out to the outhouse, and well, they're all in bed one night, and it's my turn to go out the outhouse, and I can't find the mag light. But strangely enough, I look out the window, and there's this warm glow coming out of the outhouse. And I'm like, okay, I know where that flashlight went. And that thing was like, it was probably at least 4 or 5 days. All day, all night. Because, I'm sorry, not going in there to fish it out. It was like stuck, shining straight upward, then
Oh my god.
it was kind of our little family nightlight for 5 days. And I mean, we didn't even really say, hey, who did this? Or, because we knew. We just said, wow, it's a nice nightlight out there. Pretty expensive, but pretty nice.
Oh, that's funny.
But there was nothing like living in the woods in Alaska. I mean, we were 20 miles from anywhere, and we had a road, so we could drive to town. But northern lights in wintertime.
Did it ever make you nervous being out that far though, for if emergency type of
Sure.
situation?
I mean, the hospital, closest hospital, 45-minute drive, and you know, I had
Ask us
one-
how we know.
right. I had one risk taker and one that was like making sure that he wasn't going to take too many risks that weren't going to be outside that 45-minute drive. And I would always say when the kids were saying, hey, can I climb this tree? Hey, can I rappel off this, 50-foot aspen? Well, it's a 45-minute drive to the nearest hospital, and it's a bumpy drive.
That might hurt.
And there's also the weird lights at night that can't explain what they are.
Oh, really?
You know, when you're out there in the middle of nowhere. We
'Cause
never
there's
saw
no
We never
light.
saw little green men. But we did see a lot of weird lights.
Yeah, there's no, there's no glow from any surrounding towns. You just see what's up in the sky. And
Right. The stars, I'm sure, were amazing.
It's very neat.
So how long was it? So you guys never had power out there?
No, we did actually.
Did you end up
Did
getting
you have
power?
power?
We were there, I think 7 years,
Yep.
and I said, let's go see what it would cost to bring power out, because we were about a mile away from the nearest power line.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Distribution.
Yeah, and
You pay by the pool.
yeah, to make a long story short, it cost about $20,
Really?
and then $20 a month. So it's
know,
kind of
we
our
were-
thing. We
we
went
just-
7 years without.
We heard horror stories about how it's like $10,000 because you have to pay. It's $300 a pole, and then you have to pay this, and you have to pay that, and I mean they came out in suits and
Clipboards. And
clipboards, and they're measuring, and we get this little thing in the mail that says, your electric bill will be increased $30 a month for 3 months to pay your installation
Oh,
charges. Like, what?
And one thing about Alaska, especially when we were up there a while and got to know people, is everybody helps each other out. So one neighbor came down and helped out do the electric inside the house.
Inside
And
the
another
house,
another
right.
neighbor came and helped with the door when we needed to, or if we
And the
needed
wood
to.
stove
Yeah.
and
But we
Yeah.
did have a phone before we even built the cabin. The phone company came out and buried a line a mile down the road to our cabin site and put on a tree for a while.
with an umbrella over it.
But for emergencies, you at least had some way to get, if you had to get helicopter or whatever.
Yeah, and this was
Okay.
before cell phones, so it was
Right.
landline phones.
I'll be
So I
darned.
just kept a sign above the phone that said "local calls only, please," because we did have crazy George, and he would pop up out of he would just come walking out of the woods, and he was an interesting local that just lived off the land and hid out wherever he could, and
I worked for a company that sold Alaska videos to gift stores in Alaska.
okay.
well,
Yeah.
made Alaska videos.
Made Alaska videos, and I sold them. But so I saw that a store was coming available to open up a
Okay.
location, and we got in there and opened it.
I'll be
And then
darned.
that turned into 8 stores.
Okay.
So of course we had to have a house in town,
Oh, right. Couldn't be so far out.
and Alaska just wasn't really the same for us after we moved to town.
Yeah, I could see that.
Once
It's-
you're in the burbs, you're in the burbs. It doesn't matter
Matter
where you
where.
Yeah, I mean, we had a nice house. The kids loved it. They were getting at the age where we wanted to visit Michigan, which is our home, more often. And so we started looking for a cabin in Michigan to buy,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
and we ended up buying a farm. So we had the farm we still lived in Alaska. Now we owned a farm in Michigan, and Michelle and the kids would come for the summer, and I would fly back and forth.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
It didn't take real long to figure out that wasn't going to work.
No.
Not only
So-
was it just a lot of hours, it was
Yeah.
expensive.
So what did you do in Alaska? You ran the 8 stores as well?
Yeah, I helped manage the stores. I did scheduling and deposits and
And raised 3 kids.
raised my kids, and
She did a lot of volunteer
I
work.
did volunteer work
nice.
also, and yeah, it was a very busy life. It was a very busy time. But when we had the kids, and we had in the business, we had the businesses also, they were like, just, it was easy for me to kind of fade out of the background and take care of the kids.
Right.
And
It is.
and it's great when you're the business owner, you just take your kids to work and
Yep.
you say, do this, do that, do this, do that. Sometimes it gets done, sometimes it doesn't, but
Oh,
We
You
yeah.
can have them with you.
We were fortunate enough to have the income where she could do that.
Yeah,
Right.
that's huge. I mean, anymore it seems to be as parents are both of them have to work, so then the kid gets shoved off to daycare or whatever, and or put in front of a TV or whatever.
Right.
And I think it's awesome that the experiences that your kids got.
Right, where there were days like, when one of them might be grounded, just one of them, and, we're like, hey, let's take the back way into the house, because when you're grounded, there's no TV, there's no, you can basically sit at the kitchen table and do your homework and then do your chores, and so we like both sneak up to the back of the house. And there my son sits, his feet up on the coffee table,
Eating
the
his bowl of ice
TV's
cream.
blaring, he's eating ice cream, he's like living the life, and we're like, knock, 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 hi, and he's like,
Deer in the headlights. Oh.
that's good stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
So-
good stuff.
So we packed everything up and we moved to